Oh, we're live now, huh?
Do you see it? There you go.
I just see the
Live
moon is
on
now going
Facebook.
live.
So, welcome to the Co-Creative Sex Dialogues. It sort of comes out of a continuation out of the Co-Creative Sex Summit podcast series, but it stopped for a while because I definitely need a break. But there's been some new conversations that have been sort of ignited in the community, and then it kind of came out organically that we should just continue some of these conversations because they're so needed in the community. And I have an amazing guest this week, Steve Lam. And I'll sort of put the context about how you sort of got interaction to get to our theme, which is around body shame and how it shows up in the gay community. And then you can sort of introduce a little bit more about what you would like to say about yourself, okay?
Sure, okay.
So basically, I put since the summit, I created this thing called the Co-Creative Incubator that takes all these different themes around sexuality that I sort of explore in Sex Up Your Life, the book, but allow people to dive into it in their own lives and their own biographies and start exploring it in a more artistic way for themselves and discover all these like hidden things that they're actually holding inside themselves. And this conversation about body shame came out of our chapter actually on embodying the body. And one of the things that stops us from embodying ourselves is body shame. I mean, most people have one part of their body they don't want anyone to see, or they're at the gym, working so hard that like to hide that part of themselves. And so most people have some sort of relationship to body shame. And I think one thing that really awoke me around this thing was that even models that you sort of think are so beautiful, like they have so much body shame. And I was like, wow, like when does this finish? Like, even if you're a beautiful person in the sort of classic standards, then it's still not finished. So what's going on for real,
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I would just read the text that was like put up and ask Steve, like he saw it and he was like called to talk about this. So you can tell me what was it in this text that really spoke to you? So
Sure.
I have men have body shame too, and I can prove it to you. One of the challenges that we meet as we aim to better embody our body more fully and gracefully is body shame. As
Absolutely.
we have become more and more aware of the nefarious effects of body shame on our well-being as women, and yet still clearly not over it, it still remains largely unaddressed when it comes to men. In the incubator this week, we took on body shame, and I explained a little bit of that. And then I have one person's text that was a man that shared his body shame piece. So here goes. Bariga, no matter where I look, there you are. Even when I search the skies for a soaring free birdie, I feel you weighing my front, reminding me that I'm anchored to the ground. Anchored. When I close my eyes, you are there, my shirt fabric dragging against you to breathe in and loosening when I breathe out. Even naked in the shower, I must suck you in a bit to locate the soap I just dropped. Are you kidding me? You are the reason I don't go into fitting rooms, the reason I only own dark colors. If not for you, I could celebrate my body. I have the symmetries of those handsome blokes in the magazines. If not for you, I could wear nice suits. If not for you, I could smile while I looked into the mirror. Belly, I curse you. And then I asked them at one point in the exercise to shift towards celebrating and seducing that part of their body. So this is how he shifted. Estomago, I am proud to keep you unshaven. You are the home of the happy trail. You are the source of my brunt and the reason why I don't blow away in the wind. You force my posture straight and my shoulders wide. You are proof of well-made homemade meals worthy of seconds and dessert. You do not cry out, look at me. Instead, are comfortable to imply, here is a man that is no longer on the hunt. Here is a man that is nest worthy. His life is no longer all about him and can be swayed by a 7-layer dip. Never mind the athletic thighs and bulbous calves. Forget the wide wing bones and unnecessarily developed scapular and forearm definition. They are mere distractions. The middle is soft. It is a comfortable landing spot that only the most quietly confident can possess, for he no longer feels the urgency to flash a six-pack as a bat signal to where the party's at. He knows the party worth attending to held at other venues, and he's quite capable of lighting them all up right after his nap. So there was something in that that spoke to you, and I would love you just to share what that was.
I think the main thing that spoke to me was telling it from a man's perspective, because I think that in popular culture, it's a woman's problem in many respects. You know, like you hear a lot about, body shaming women. You see in the media, like Adele, for example, now she's lost all this weight, and everyone's, that's the thing now. You see, like, I thought the Dove commercials they did a few years ago was great, showing all the different body types. So what spoke to me was that it was a man actually saying, hey, this is also something that men deal with as well. And I reached out just because it's something that I can see in myself as well. Like, I looked in the mirror this morning. I thought, oh, look at that little bit of, fat there. And it's kind of ridiculous because, I weigh 151 pounds, and yet I look in the mirror and, I see something that's not quite that ideal.
Right.
And I don't know where it ends. As you said earlier, where does it end? Like you said,
right.
And I even remember being as low as 145 at one point, a few years ago, and thinking, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. But yet it's somehow, looking in the mirror, there's some other level to get to. So
I love what you said about that thing around, let's say gay, what was it? Straight, fat, gay, thin.
You're straight thin, but you're gay fat.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
And, we joke about it, within the gay community, with our friends, that, if we were straight, we would be perfectly fine, right? We would be considered thin. But in the gay community, at least within certain segments of the gay community, depending on what community you want to participate in, because the gay community isn't just like a giant community. There's lots of that you participate in. And there are some segments of the gay community where the price of admission is having a nice body.
Yeah.
So I hear that, and we joke about it, but there's also a truth to it as well, is that, we certainly hold ourselves to a much tougher standard compared to our straight dad bod friends.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because you mentioned too to me that being thin was a kind of form of currency.
It's not just being thin, but it's having a good body, right?
Like
and again, it depends.
Athletic body.
Athletic, going to the gym. I mean, I can tell you when the pandemic started, it was like a gay panic happened, because all of a sudden the gyms are closed. What are we gonna do, right? There's no place to work out. And you could really see it on social media. There were memes about it, but people were serious, like, what are we gonna do now? The gyms are closed, and, there's a lot of people I'm speaking for myself, and I also want to make an assertion too, that for a lot of us, our self-esteem is tied to how we look, tied to our bodies, and again, the price of admission for participating in certain aspects of the gay community, the club scene, the party scene, is working out.
Yeah. So when you talk about the price of admission, what does that mean exactly? Like, to be able to be socially accepted in a circle? Is it to get into that gym, to get into that club, to get certain jobs? Like, what does that mean exactly? And can I just ask you to hold your thought 2 seconds? I just realized that my computer is 9% and I don't want it to die on us. So you get a chance to think about it.
Yep, totally.
There you go. Okay. So there you go. Okay. So, yeah.
When I came out, going back to, I want to speak from my own spirit. When I came out, as I said earlier, the gay community is a bunch of communities as well.
Yeah.
And I would say that I found my tribe, or the community, that what that was for me was really the club scene, the gay party club scene. So we call it the surf party scene, for lack of a better word. And if you look at that scene, most of the people participating in it work out, have great bodies, dance shirtless. And so for me, that was the price of admission. I had to look like that in order to get in that scene.
And there wasn't anyone like actually said this to you, but you sort of took it on that this was what was expected of you.
This
or
is what was
noticed that this is how you get attention.
This is how I'm going to get attention, and this is how I'm going to be, accepted.
Right.
In this particular community.
Right. And did it show up in any other places, like in terms of other spaces, or was that especially in the kind of more like maybe like more of the pickup kind of environment?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, again, I think, for, like I said, I use the word currency. So if you look at apps like Grindr or, some of the gay hookup apps, a nicer body gets you more attention.
Right.
You'll get more, I don't know, people pinging, I don't know what they call it, taps, taps. You'll get more taps, for example.
Yeah. So what do you think that says about, I mean, this is not just an only, of course it's an experience that you've experienced in the gay community, but we know as well that like, and this is a human experience where, people who have these perfect idealized bodies will get a lot of attention. So what do you think, or sexual attention, we can say maybe especially, what do you think that speaks about us as humans?
Oh boy, that's a big, what does that speak to us about humans? Let's see. For myself, what do I like about it? I like the attention, right? Since we're honest, since you're, this is the co-creative sex, right? And be responsible for how I speak as well. And, but I want to be authentic as well. Like for myself, I think that a lot of sex drive for me is in the hunt.
Right.
Right. And there's certain tools you need to be successful in the hunt.
Right. So like it's really ribbed, for instance.
Yeah. So
that's like,
it is
like a big, tool for conquering.
Yeah. It's not, for example, it's not a surprise that my, I mean, I'll be a thing. I have a Grindr profile, right? That my Grindr profile is a picture of me without my shirt on. Accident.
Yeah. So there's a kind of an experience of body, that there's something about bodies that are attractive, that are, we go to museums to look at beautifully sculpted bodies. There's an aesthetic quality. And yet there's also like this suffocating quality or an illusion or something that then imprisons us into that experience. So maybe talk a little bit about that part, how it's a drive, but at the same time, it sort of can be oppressive too. For yourself,
Yeah. I'm just thinking about that. I mean, it's a tough one, right? Because I'm really thinking about this now and how to kind of say it.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, just like whatever comes.
Yeah. The hard part about it is because what are we attracted to, right? What are we attracted to, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk specifically about the hookup apps, for example, right? It's a pretty mean world out there in the world of hookups. And
like mean?
Yeah, it's like, it's a harsh world. It's not a pleasant world, right?
Right.
And, going through, and it's easy to reject someone right off the bat because of the way they look.
Right.
Even, and I'm going to say, I'm going to add race to it as well, because we're really in a conversation about race right now.
Yeah.
So in the hookup apps, you can just, I don't know, what do they call, swipe left or swipe right, what you guys do, right? On Tinder or whatever, you can just swipe one way just because, oh, I don't like that race. I don't like that, you know, too fat, too thin, too whatever. So it really kind of can eat at your self-esteem. You know,
Yes.
to be rejected. Like, and I've experienced that for myself, is that, you know, you have someone blocks you right away.
And you can see that.
You know why they blocked you, but they blocked you. And, or sometimes they'll tell you, right? These people are mean, right? They'll say exactly, not into you, sorry, not into Asians, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You even hear this expression, it's a horrible expression that in the gay community, again, no fats, no femmes. It's even no fats, no femmes, no Asians, even. You will hear people say, and it's hurtful.
Yeah.
To have it directed at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a fairly thick skin to navigate this world. Otherwise, it really can eat at you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just like noticing something very interesting where on one hand, there's like you seem to be describing this one level that is the level of just being in your physical body,
Yeah.
and then there's no emotions attached to that. It's like it's just the physicality of the body, the sensuality or the eroticism of that body, without the feeling life, without the identity, without like all these other aspects that make us a whole human being. But it's like this kind of like, you know, magazine, and you're just like choose what you want, what you don't want, and you know it's very transactional.
Yeah.
But that it kind of like reduces the human experience to your body. So like whenever your body's not accepted or valued, it's like devastating because that's where your value is. It's just in your body, and you're like your whole other being's like crying, like, hey, but I'm this amazing human being. How come like I'm not recognized for all these other layers?
Yeah.
And it's
You can
like,
value that, you know. The fact that you like long walks on the beach, it's all right, but it's not really valued, you know.
yeah,
Like it's the culture is very much based on looks, I would say, you know. At least as a first, like the first impression, right? Like, and you know, I'm guilty of it too, right? I'm guilty of going onto Grindr and, you know, going through, or even at the clubs, parties, you know, like I know who I'm attracted to, I know who I'm not.
yeah,
And there's something to be said for being kind. I really just had this discussion with someone recently about this, about, you know, you can have your preferences, just don't be an asshole about it,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess like, yeah, that's when it's kind of interesting going into different environments, like let's say like the kink community or different things. And then you suddenly see all these different body shapes being celebrated sexually, and you're like, and they almost become fetishized in these different places. And it's like it meets it's another community, and other people appreciate that there, but they wouldn't appreciate it in this other environment, you know?
It's true, yeah. Like, you know, just to try, like, from my own experience, I remember in I was actually overseas. I went to, a friend of mine invited me to a bear party. I don't know if you heard the expression bears, right? But it's larger men, right? This bear party. And I have to say, I really felt out of place there and judged for being skinny.
Yeah.
I experienced like a different kind of thing there of being like rejected because I didn't fit their ideal, right?
Yeah.
It was bigger.
Hey, that's really like that's a really interesting observation. I don't know if you know that study they did about blue eye and brown eyed children.
Mhm.
You ever hear about that? And then the teacher gives value to the blue eyed kids, and they're extraordinary because they do this. And then socially, all like the whole class starts becoming nasty with the other colored eyed people. And then at one point, the study flips it and then puts all like, well, no, it's the brown eyed, you know, eyes that are just like, you know, they suddenly become the powerful ones. And then it's like their behavior becomes really nasty to the other people, and they become the powerful ones. So it reminds me of that, like you sort of create this environment where what's valued is the bears, and then suddenly you suddenly feel like, hey, I've been all, you know, I'm like, I was like, a hot commodity in this environment. Suddenly, I feel small.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like it sort of reveals something too about that whole fitting in piece.
I think human beings, like, we're social creatures, and fitting in is an important aspect of who we are, you know, as I you know, for me, I mean, I've I recognize, part of my humanity is a desire to fit in,
Mhm.
oftentimes it does kind of drive who I am as a person, it's kind of in the background. Do I fit in here? Do I fit in there?
Yeah.
Just wanting to be, one of the popular kids. I was a nerd in school, so I never really felt like I fit in school and high school. I feel like as an adult, I'm constantly like replaying high school.
Right. Right. That's a really good observation, actually. Like, I think
Yeah.
we often do replay that whole high school, teenage years are the social forming years. And so if socially it was a difficult time when you're a teenager, you're probably going to be working hard as an adult to refine that sense of like
Yeah,
value, because it's like, there's the popular kids and the less popular kids.
that's right. Yeah. Finally, one day I'll be popular, right? So if I do this, if I work out this, participate in this community, I'll finally be popular. So
If you were to make a list like of check, 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 like if I had this, then my body, I'd be valued in the community, what would it sound like?
I mean, I think now, like as an older, I'm 50 years old, just in case anybody's wondering, I'm a lot more settled in who I am. Like I'm actually quite satisfied with how I look right now. And I'll admit, I still look in the mirror and think, maybe a few more pounds, right? But I'm actually satisfied with how I look right now. So I don't necessarily, I don't know if I can answer the question about, is there a specific checklist?
Like, let's say when you were going to the club scene, for instance, what would be that checklist that you for yourself would want to like have?
But yeah, so that's a really good point. So before, like, say a big, like a gay cruise or, a party or some event we're socializing, there is like, I gotta work out, gotta work out, gotta work out, gotta work out, gotta work out,
Right.
gotta get the weight down, so I mean, 152 pounds is good for me, right? It's interesting too, as the pandemic started and everybody got into baking, I like got up to like my highest weight ever. I got up to like 158 pounds. And for me, I like had a panic moment, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. And I got to work my way back down, right? So this like panic set in. And, and it goes back to the whole straight, thin, gay, fat thing. Like, oh, now gay fat, I'm still straight thin, but I know I'm really gay fat. I'm not fat at all.
Right.
158.
And is it like, do you feel like someone would be less attracted to you for those extra pounds? Like, do you think
Yes,
it's
I don't want to, yeah,
reality,
so
or do you think it's like
yes.
still something in your head?
It is. It's a thing in the head. I don't want to go there. Like, I don't want to go to being fat, like let myself go. And I don't want to know what that looks like at all. I don't want to go there
Mm.
myself.
So what's scary about
There.
being fat?
Being rejected,
Mm.
you know, um,
Is where did you see fat people be rejected?
um, yeah, it's a good point. It's such a complex issue in, the party scene, no, I mean, the slogan alone, no faps, no femmes, no Asians, it says it right there.
Right.
That was a very popular, demeaning slogan.
Yeah. And where did that come from? Like, what era was that? Is it still
The first
something
time I
now?
ever saw it was 90s. I feel like it's always been around, like, but I remember going to a film festival in Portland, the Gay Film Festival, and there was a film, and that was like the first thing. There was a very I don't remember the controversy, but there was one scene where they just flashed it on the screen: no fats, no femmes, no Asians. And
Wow.
really offended. I was just so offended.
Yeah.
I said, I can't. And to be perfectly frank, as an Asian person growing up in a white centric culture, even being Asian, so it's like, oh, life would be a lot easier if I wasn't Asian even,
Yeah.
and it's a lot to admit that, but
Yeah.
I think, for me, I assert that almost every person of color, visible minority at one point in their life growing up in this culture has said, you know what, life would be a lot easier if I was white.
Yeah. Well, I remember you sharing a story, but when you were a kid,
Yeah.
Passing the newspaper. Can you share
Yeah.
that story with us?
I did. I mean, it was when I was, you know, 10 years old, I had a paper route, right? Living in Ajax, Ontario. And I think this was it was one of those defining moments in my life where I really got that people will hate you because of your race, you know, and I was doing the paper route, nothing ever happens. And these two girls, they were probably like 5 or 6, they just come around their house and they start chanting, you know, Chinese, Japanese, dirties, look at these, laughing at me, pointing at me. And for me, it was such a shock to have that happen. You know,
Yeah.
the girls would actually run out and say this to me. And I didn't even know them, just to make fun of me for nothing more than my race.
Yeah.
And it was one of those incidents that really stuck with me. Like I can still see it playing out. You know, I look at it, I can know exactly what happened, what they were wearing. You know, I have this vivid memory of it. And it was one of those things like, God, I wish I wasn't Asian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Well,
Asian.
yeah, it was like this full rejection of who you are, and the
Yeah.
community comes out and gives you this message. It's a very powerful thing at such an impressionable age, you know?
Yeah. So in some respects, because of that, and because I participate, because, you know, let's say we live in a very white centric community. The gay community is very white centric. I mean, I think we can have these conversations now because of what's been going on and all of that. For me, I felt that I had to compensate for being, you know, an Asian man in a white centric community. I can't believe I'm saying that myself, kind of coming up, right? I felt I had to compensate. And
Yeah.
one way to compensate is to have a nice body.
Right.
I have that.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
You know?
Yeah, it's like, okay, how can I increase the currency? Because I can't do anything about my race, but I can do this, 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 and this. And like, there's all these subtle messages that we pick up on.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you feel like that paper route story was the first, maybe, I mean, because, you know, racist comments are also like very much a body shame experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it.
It's,
Um, it's a cultural bigger thing, but it's really like your body. It's like telling your body is not the right color, or not the right this, or not the right that, right? So do you see any other before that of like body shame experiences, or do you think that was the real first one for you?
well, that wasn't the first one. I remember that. And then there was another incident that happened when I was 19, I think. But it really stuck with me. So I got off to university, right? And they have this, you know how they have the freshman 15, you're supposed to gain 15 pounds in your first year of university, right? And I remember coming back from university and I guess I put on some weight from freshman year, right? And my aunt just looked at me and said, "You got fat." Just like that, right? And I was so mad. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not fat. Because I looked at myself in the mirror, I said, I'm not fat. How could she say I was fat?
Yeah. And like fat in that context was really an insult, you know?
It was. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Right? Like I think maybe I weighed 160 pounds or whatever, but I was really shocked and embarrassed actually
Yeah.
by that. And you know, Asian, they just tell you how it is, right? I don't know if she mean anything by it, but man, she's like, just like, you got fat. That was,
Yeah.
you know, so.
But it's always interesting when people make comments on your body because it's like you're being analyzed and you're like being looked at. You're like the gaze is
Yeah.
on you and you're like you don't have any way of escaping this body and suddenly people are like analyzing you. And
Yeah.
so it makes you feel like, yeah, you're put on the spot for something, for a feature.
Mm-hmm. And we do it to each other too. Like, you know, within my friend circle, we do it to each other, you know, and it's a joke. And at the same time, you know, there's an element of meanness to it. Like,
Yeah, like the joke with a bit of poison at the tip.
a little bit, you know, like, you know, when one of my friends, we have this expression, well, you need to lay off the spring rolls, right? Girl, you need to lay off the spring rolls. That means you're putting on a little bit too much weight, right? So, and we say that to each other, just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, like this whole
laugh about
relationship
it.
with food and the relationship with appearances and like what you said, like, you know, you kind of learned to understand that like your power also came from your body at one point. And so your body was
Yeah,
very important. So it's like anything that touches the body takes on a very big importance, you know?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh,
Mhm.
for sure.
So if you look at body shame as a whole, like what 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 insights do you have now that you've been looking at it and taking it apart? Like why do most humans have body shame in your opinion?
Why do we have it? It's a good question. Hmm. So because we're told something, so
Yeah,
there's so how we're socialized, right? What
yeah,
kind of images are coming at us, is certainly one aspect of it, I think. Because
yeah,
look at what's happening in the culture out there, like literally like we love to comment on people's weight, celebrities, constantly commenting on who gained weight, who's thin, who's fat. Adele, came out all of a sudden and she's like thin now, and people are like, they want to know what happened to her. you know. So certainly there's pressure
an
from
obsession. Is it a bit of an obsession about the weight?
it's upset. Yeah, it's
Like
obsessive.
it's a real focus, like people are commenting on that. It really, everyone's, it's almost this collective fear and power, like to like, you know, diss someone if they have a weight issue. Like it's like easy to take them down.
Yeah,
So there's like
it's
this kind of
yeah,
collective fear, like I don't want to be in that state of maybe shame and humiliation if I have that weight, for instance.
yeah. I think that's true. So there's certainly the way we're socialized, um, and again, what communities you participate in makes a difference because, as we talked about earlier, there are some communities where, like I said, the bear community, it's not an issue to be,
That's what they value.
it's valued, right? So, and there's other communities where it doesn't matter. And then there are certain other communities where it seems to matter.
Yeah.
I say it seems to matter because, we all make our own decisions, right? And
Mhm.
within any community, you have outliers. Like, within the hot body community, there are people who are perfectly fine, who are overweight, who are participating and loving it, but they're really an outlier, from my experience.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, why do you think in that, let's say that community where it's super important, like, does anyone feel safe in that community, or is it everyone like have to guard themselves to make sure they're always at the top of their game? Like, is there a stress to be part of that community for everyone?
I feel like there is, like we joke about it, but it's stressful. So, when the pandemic started, for example, right, like some of the jokes that I saw play out is, first of all, the gym is closed, right? And people are saying, well, it's a good thing that the 2020 season is canceled because nobody's in shape. So thank God,
You don't see us.
the season is canceled. So good.
Yeah,
But it was real. It was a real thing. Like,
yeah.
before and after pictures, or this is what you look like pre-pandemic. This is what you look like post-pandemic, things like that. I even
People
have
were
friends.
actually able to show it though, so they're not scared to the point where they don't want to show it, but they're still they're like that's important to them.
It's important, right? And those memes, there's an element to truth. That's why they're funny,
Yeah,
because they touch on something in our humanity, right? Like, yep, that's me. Yep,
yeah.
I totally think that right now. You're right. The season's canceled. No gym. I might as well just enjoy, being fat or whatever.
Right, 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 right.
It definitely brought it up for a lot of people, I think.
Well, the people that are really like in those communities where you know you have to be perfect, let's say, to be part of it, um what do you think their state of empowerment is? Like, are they actually empowered people and full of well-being, or is this all an illusion and everyone's just like in the Hunger Games, like trying to keep their position?
Yeah. You see, people are all over the spectrum around it. Like there is fairly well documented. I mean, I seem to say there is body dysmorphia within the gay community for sure. And there are lots of articles on it. There's There's steroid use for sure. You know, I have a friend of mine who, he's not a bodybuilder, but he did a round of steroids. And he told me that, you know, even though I'm bigger now, I still see a skinny guy staring back at me in the mirror, right? So there's that. So it's really all over the spectrum. You know, it's funny, you know, gay cruise, for example, right? This is like this little container, right, of gay people. You have 5,000 guys on a cruise. The gym is absolutely packed. It is jam packed at all hours, right? And I, for me, it's like, can't you like take a week off, you know, on vacation? It's okay to take a week off. You know, that's what kind of what I'm telling myself as I'm observing this. And I'll see guys who will go to the buffet and I'll see on their plate a chicken breast and some steamed vegetables. I'm like, dude, you're at a buffet, you know? Live a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
like,
and I don't know what their experience is, but for me, it seems really confining, right? Like here you are in this environment and you're just gonna have a chicken breast and some steamed vegetables. Got a beautiful body, not to mention that this beautiful body is walking by, right?
Yeah. Well, what do you think, like for yourself, if you know, you say you're at a place where you're at peace with your body, but you still feel that pressure to some degree still.
Yep.
What, you know, if you look at your path and your history, what have been the most empowering moments around your body, like that you like for self-acceptance and empowerment? Like what would be the path for people to take true empowerment, you know, and it's like not defined by your body wellness?
Well, I would have to say, if I was being really authentic, a lot of it is tied to external stimulus, external, what's the word I'm looking for? A validation.
Right.
Somebody else has validated that I have a great body, good, you know, I'm doing something right, you know, because I mean, I don't know what if that wasn't there, would I care as much? Not sure. You know, because it is there, right? The stimulus. And like I said to you earlier, when I got up to 158 pounds at the, you know, 4 weeks into pandemic, eating cake, cheesecake and baking, I'm like, this cannot be, right? We have to I put an end to the pandemic baking for myself, right? Because yeah, it set in, right? The panic set in. And because it's the fear of losing that validation, I guess. Really.
I mean, and there is something to be said about, like, I know that I had some extra pounds as well, and I started working out and I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel better in my body. So like, it's not even like how people say look at me, but there is a well-being that comes out of feeling fit. That there's for sure. Absolutely. But there's like a distinction between feeling good in your body and light and everything seems to not be getting in the way and you feel mobile, and that obsession of like, wow, like so much value on my personal value comes to like from the eyes looking at me, and I better be perfect. You know, there's a whole other mental well-being and emotional well-being that, you know, can go really down this downward spiral to be in that space when it's like your value is so much in the eyes of the gaze of everyone else, right?
Yeah. I mean, now that I'm older, like I said, you know, I'm more settled in who I am now. So, but there was a time where, you know, in my 30s where it was pretty obsessive, like, you know, lifting weights and going on all those protein supplements, like spending a fortune on protein powder, you know, all to just move the needle just slightly. Because you know, I've got a body type that doesn't want to really put on weight. Like, you know, they have the different body types, you know, ectomorph. And I definitely wasn't the body type that just puts on muscle. So it really was a struggle for me.
Yeah.
And at one point,
a lot of men that have that skinnier body type, they usually want to eat things that will make their muscles.
Yeah,
bigger, right?
I wanted more muscles. I wanted to weigh 160 pounds, 165 or whatever, and have like big muscles and be one of those guys. And, you know, put a lot of effort into getting there that never got there, really. Right. And I wasn't willing to do steroids. So, you know, but man, I drank a lot of protein powder. So now all I do yoga now is how I stay fit. And I'm happy doing yoga. You know, I try and do it every day. But it's interesting too, because like that little trigger is always there. Like, because I do yoga for health. I love the way I feel healthier. And yet yesterday I didn't do yoga because I was too busy. And this little thing, oh, I didn't do yoga today. Oh my God, 300 calories, that's I'm not gonna be able to like apply to my day.
Yeah.
But those thoughts were there.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel like there was ever one point in your life where you felt like it really was having a toll on your mental health?
I don't think on my mental health. Let me think about it. I'm trying to think. Did it have a toll on my mental health? I don't think so. No, no.
And did it like what
In
were
terms of what? Like
periods where it
when you
was,
say mental health, though, like in terms
yeah,
of,
well, I mean like your well-being basically, like doesn't mean that you're committing suicide,
oh,
but
right,
like,
right.
they're like maybe depressed or you feel like hard on yourself, you're, basically not well.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think I ever got to that point for myself.
So it's more like this little nagging voice inside that just constantly sort of like pokes at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and again, now that we're looking, it's really the fear that the validation won't be there. And as we get older, then you find even more ways to compensate. Because, like I said, I just turned 50, right? And and there's this thing in the gay community that once you turn a certain age, your life is over. But I don't think that's true. Really, I think that there's a lot more life to be had. It's kind of like a context, and I haven't personally experienced like turning 50 and then the lights turn off. But
Mhm.
I do feel that as an older gay man, I do have to keep compensating,
Right.
for the fact that I am 50, because there's again certain segment of the population that doesn't really want to talk to you
Right.
your age. And for me, again, having a nice body adds to that currency because the age currency is going down, right?
Mhm.
So we got to keep that physical appearance currency, on the upswing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's one of those like, battles that can't be won and that you're always going to get older and your
Mm-hmm.
body's going to change, and it's just, I look at my 99-year-old grandma that was fit all her life and she's at the state she's in now, right?
Yeah,
So there
yeah,
is something that does alter with age. Um, and so that those young 28-year-old guys that are like all fit and gorgeous or whatever, and then someone who's maybe in their 60s, they're it's a different game for both of these age groups. Um, and if you're still trying to get the attention of the 28-year-old body, that's when maybe some of the issues come up too, when there's a lack of coherence, maybe.
mm.
What do you think about that? Does that resonate or not?
Can you say that one more time? So your 28-year-old
So let's
body.
say it's like a 20-year-old guy that has a sculpted, powerful, slim, athletic body, and then this person that's, that had a great body grown, throughout their life, but they're in their 60s now and they're or 70s, and their body's just gonna, they could still be fit and everything, but it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be the same kind of body. They're a different
no,
age
it's
group.
true. Yeah. I mean, even like, the 20-year-olds don't even have to. We call them twinks, right? For, the expression twinks, right? They're skinny. Maybe they still got a little bit of baby fat on them from the teenage years, but they're just valued as, hot. So you can be in your early 20s and, not even that fit, I suppose, and you're idealized,
Right.
right? And
Like
then you
like
kind of
a
realize, yeah, that
yeah.
at some point, it's got to kick it. Again, it depends on where you're participating, I suppose, which community, but at some point something kicks in. It's like, well, I got to start working out. It's interesting when you see like on Instagram, the before and after pictures, you see these really built guys and you see their pictures in their, in the 10-year challenge thing that's going around right now, or has gone around. What the difference when, yep, you were a twink and you're 18 or 20 or whatever, and you were skinny, and now look at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And you have
So
20
I
followers.
guess
So
I guess one of my big commitments is like, how can people find more freedom within themselves? Because it's really like it's these ideas that we have about what we think is valuable or makes us have worth or all these things, but they're kind of adopted ideas too. So how do we make more space for inner freedom so that these things actually don't weigh on us anymore? Because it just feels a little bit like to be stuck in that just feels so suffocating.
Yeah. I mean, first you have to be at peace with yourself, of course, right? And as I
Mhm.
said, now that I'm older, I'm more at peace with myself, is certainly one aspect of that. But I don't know, I've really been thinking about it as we have, started to talk, and, is there a solution to this? Is there a way to be fully empowered around it? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. Um, just because of there's so many external influences, right, that we receive on this
Mhm.
topic.
I just know that as a woman, when I see like different businesses, like there's this one business has lingerie and they always put different shape, different size and different shapes and different colors of women, you know?
Mhm.
And I always like when I see that kind of advertisement, it just feels so authentic and real. And I'm like, ah, breath of fresh air, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then I sort of look on the street, I'm like, oh, well, like, like the guys seem to be choosing all kinds of different body types. Like it's not one body type that's getting all the attention. And I sort of like, and I guess that really helps me to start like deconstructing. And those are kind of ways that society could start making us all have a little more space, is by deglorifying certain looks,
Mhm.
um, but until you have like advertisement that is like completely focused on one body type, anyone that doesn't have that body type is kind of left out, right?
To a certain extent, I mean, you could definitely be made to feel that way, for sure, that you are left. I mean, I felt left out before, but I felt more left out mostly because of race, to be perfectly honest with you, than body type. That's been more prevalent, for myself. That feeling of invisibility, exclusion at times,
Hmm.
participating in, like I said, a predominantly, Caucasian culture.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there is a shift though, for sure, happening. Like,
Hmm.
it's not a massive shift, but you see a lot more advertising that is more inclusive. I've seen great ads for events that do try and promote different body types, different races, and all that. And I think that's great that that's happening. And then there's still ads out there that are, predominantly, white male bodybuilder, and that's all you see, and then they try and say that they're diverse.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that. There's two sides to it, for sure. There's that, but I think things are moving in the right direction, um, for sure. As I've grown older,
Yeah.
I have seen things become more inclusive. You
what
know,
would you what
like,
would
I
you
don't think, like, it's not cool to say no fats, femmes, or Asians anymore. It's really not cool.
that
And
was a 90s thing?
I guess so. And, people are willing to call people out on it now, and you can get banned, for
Right.
those that kind of messaging. Um, so, we're definitely more aware of it, I guess, for sure.
Hmm. What
But
kind of advice would you give another man from the gay community that's maybe younger than you, just wanting to start going into the bar clubbing scene, and is stressed about his body and his working out? Like what would you tell that person?
what would I tell that person? Oh God. You know, I think back to, I'm just kind of going to try and recreate something that Dan Savage said. You know Dan Savage, right?
Mhm.
He's a sex advice columnist, and he had said something really brilliant about the gay community that I love, is that the gay community doesn't have to accept you. It's a community, and you know, it's not there to accept you. And it's kind of a myth actually, that because we think that, you know, we leave the, you know, we come out and we go to this community that's going to accept us. Well, no, you're not gonna
Interesting.
be accepted, but you got to find out where you fit in that community, you know, and there's lots of different ways for you to fit into that community. And there is one aspect of the community where you will fit in if you work out, blah, 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 right? And there's other aspects of the community where you will fit in because you're a writer or you're an activist or you are a young person who wants to, you know, build community theater. There's lots of ways for you to fit in.
Which is interesting. We kind of leave the realm of like the body then. It's like, it's more like the interests and the talents of the people, you know, and their passions. That's what becomes the uniting elements.
Yeah, but it's up to you to find your place. It's not up to the community to figure out where you fit in.
Well, it's when you were saying that, it kind of brought me back to that you know, high school analogy of like the popular gang. You know, you could spend your whole high school trying to get into that gang, and that's not your gang, and you're killing yourself trying to get in there when maybe you have to be with the creatives and the poets, you know, or like, you know, another gang, whatever it is that you know, like you say, maybe the activists, that is way more that it feels empowering to you. I think you froze. Are you still there? Let me see. Did we lose you?
For myself, oh no.
Oh, there you are. But you're like, we're losing you.
Did I freeze? My internet maybe.
Yeah, you're freezing a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're coming back from time to time.
I'm going to try downstairs. All right, okay. Maybe I'll go off video for a little bit just to see if that stabilizes things.
You're back now. It's fine.
I'm going downstairs where I'm closer to the router, so hopefully that kind of helps.
Okay.
What was I saying? So,
well, that example of the different.
We were talking about finding your place in it. I had a specific point I was trying to make. What was it?
Well, about Dan Savage, and like basically, he was like, the gay community doesn't have to accept you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like for me, you know, it's interesting that it's a community because of bodily, where I found.
Oh, the connection's not really good. So maybe, yeah, take your photo, like take your image off.
My tribe is, okay.
Okay, there you go.
How am I now?
I think you're right.
Can you and see what happens? So now that I look, when I look at who my tribe is, so to speak, like it's not, it was never big. I think that it was, but it actually, right? Where I found my tribe in the gay community was the one tribe I found board. I'll just say it was called Circuit Party Insanity. A shout out to all the Sanity folks, but it was a message board, people posting messages, and I made friends in that, and that was a community, you know, that that had nothing to do with what you looked like, right? But it was really like a common interest that we had. But for me, now that I'm looking at it, like, man, but it was really an illusion, you know, that it had to be about body, but it wasn't about that, you know? Am I coming through, Julie? Can you hear me?
You are, but like, it's still not the best, but I do hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I apologize. It must be my internet is just, you know, a little unstable. But yeah, and, you know, I had another group of friends.
Yeah, maybe I would do
at our common interest wagging. We did this thing called
I'm gonna stop.
Spinning silk. Okay.
Okay, go for it.
All right. How are we doing, Julie? Can you? Are we?
Yeah, I hear you, but it's a little bit choppy.
Doing
so.
okay? Okay. I'm gonna just. Okay. So, I was talking about like where I found my communities, and it was never. Now that I'm looking, it was never really based on having a nice body. It actually wasn't. You know. Like one of the first communities I found myself in the gay community was really based on a message board. There was a message board, an internet group that I participated in. I made a lot of friends through that message board. We just shared this common interest, you know, of going out to the club scene and parties and whatnot. But it was never based on bodies. It was just based on, you know,
Like
the
going
messages
out
that we
activities?
exchanged, you know. Pardon?
Like, you know, having friends
Can
to
you say
go
that?
out with and
Yeah, meeting up and all that. And I'm still friends with these people. 20 years later, we're still all friends. We still, you know, go to the clubs together or whatever, you know, still get together. So there was that. And then,
well, I mean, it's a really
so
interesting observation because you're kind of saying that like those friendships lasted because there was more depth than just the body, almost like the body contacts didn't really stay very long. Is that a good assumption on my part?
um, not necessarily true. I mean, I did make friends through, you know, because somebody was attracted to me or I was attracted to them, you
I'm
know.
talking in terms of longevity,
Um,
friendships. I mean, you could be attracted to them, but there's other things that are going to keep the interest
yeah,
alive
there was
for many years, right?
actually a common interest that had us all be friends. Yeah, there was something else other than that.
Right.
Like I said, the message board, or there was a group of friends where we did this thing called flagging, you know, where we spun this fabric and we all became friends through doing that. And then even that was never about how you looked. It was all really, you know, this activity that we all did together, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. I wonder if I can come back on video now. I wonder if the
Let's try it
video
out.
is good enough. Start it. I'm gonna start it.
Okay.
My
But I had a good question for you. Now I've forgotten it.
go.
But yeah, so
Okay.
it's just like, so that's the kind of recommendation you would give to that young person going out, like find
Find,
where you fit in.
find your tribe, exactly, you know. Find out where you fit in, you know, based on, you know, what you're interested in. What do you want to contribute there? I think that's what Dan said. What do you want to contribute to the community?
Right. Sounds like a John F.
Yeah,
Kennedy kind of thing. Don't ask what the
kind of,
nation can do
yeah.
for you, but we can do for the nation.
A little bit, yeah. What can you offer, right? What can you do for the community?
And if you were to meet like a young Asian man that's, going out and just, trying to find his place, what kind of recommendation would you do for that young man that was in the gay community?
Uh, Probably the same, you know, like you know, I think that most important thing is to get that what someone says to you isn't necessarily the truth. You know, like there are going to be people who are not, unfortunately, you know, we live in a world where people are not going to like you because of your race. And there's many places where you can go where you'll get, you know, and don't let, you know, I don't want to say don't let it bother you, but it's not the truth about you. You know,
Right.
someone calling you pink, it's not the truth about you.
To not take it on. Like it's like they're speaking and you're not like taking
Yeah.
it on.
It says more about them than it says about you, really.
Yeah.
But I would give the same advice where you, what can you contribute? I really, like I said, I love Dan Savage. It really landed with me when he said that. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it about the community, right? It doesn't have to accept you. Go find out where you belong in it, where you fit
Well,
in.
it's interesting because again, it kind of shifts the conversation from expecting the community to accept you to you being like proactive and showing up. It empowers you to like you have agency in that situation.
That's right. You are fully responsible then, rather than effect of the community. Yeah.
Hmm. So any
Hope
closing
that made
remarks? Sorry, go ahead.
hope that made sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
Doing its thing. Yeah. Okay. No, this was really insightful. Like I think, you know, through this conversation, I got for myself really that, you know, I mean, I do value working out, but it's not my relationships are not based on that. It's a kind of a bit of an illusion sometimes that it's based on that, but it's
Right.
really not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet it can have like a pressure or an element, but then when you really look into it, you're like, that actually is a little like, that's not actually the real thing that's like that I'm actually enjoying or getting nourished by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not the meat of it.
Exactly. It's like sort of like the bling bling on the outside, but then it's like it's that excavating that you're like, okay, there's little needs to be a little bit more here than that. So is there any final things you'd like to
Cool.
say about body shame?
Well, I'm more present to it now. Like I'm checking myself now where I do it because, like I said, I still have, thoughts, judgments and all that. And I'm more aware of just having it bubble up to the surface, this conversation and, like the impact that words have, even when we joke about it, just joking with our friends, oh, you should go lay off the spring rolls, right? Is kind of hurtful.
Yeah.
You
Well, it's
say
interesting.
it as a joke, it's just
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's interesting because I find that like my experience too is like the more that people are critical of other people, usually that's also their oh like they have that kind of critical voice inside of them that's driving them, you
yeah.
know? And so
Yeah, it's like I better lay off the spring rolls. So
well, as much as it can be hurtful to other people, like that person is constantly, having those hurtful ideas within that's what's driving them forward and that's how they live their life. That must be really heavy too.
can be, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I might check in with someone too. Is that a hurtful thing or, where you, because for some of us it's not, but for others it is. Like, again, within our friend group, we kind of joke about it, but I don't know if anybody's actually really like super. I think people, my sense is there probably are people who are impacted by these things that are said, and we pretend that,
It
that
doesn't. Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
joke, right? Ah, we'll just laugh it off. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
aware of it. I appreciate that we had this conversation to
Yeah.
just have it be, in focus, have it really be something to notice.
Yeah, and just sort of like just go deeper into it and be like, what's really going on with this body shame thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for actually being the one that kind of got this conversation going and to give us a peephole into also the experiences that are being experienced in the gay community as well. As you say, it's like there's all different kinds of communities and different, it's like multi-layered and not monolithic, but it gives us a little bit of feeling of what is being dealt with. And also just like, and if we take it as a big human family experience, it's like, yeah, everyone has this body shame experience. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's an interesting one to look at, like why is it driving us? Why does it, and for some people, it
Yeah,
might be something that is, doesn't affect them that much. And some people, it's like really driving their whole life, like their whole
yeah,
self-worth is attached to this piece. And some people have found other ways. So it becomes less important. But when it becomes your whole life, it can get really just like anorexia or
yeah,
bulimia. It's become so consuming.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just really interesting to explore. So thanks for jumping into the conversation. And next week, actually, someone else was like, "Hey, this conversation, I want to have this conversation too." So we have another guest next week. Who is a woman this time, and she is a dietitian and a fitness person. And she said this was her favorite topic because she says so many people are stopping themselves from living the life and enjoying the lives they want to be living because of their bodies.
Mm.
That's another thing too, like how much we censor ourselves and hold ourselves back and not experience pleasure because we think we have to hide ourselves. So the conversation is going to be continuing next Thursday and next Tuesday, same time. Well, thanks a lot, Steve. Did you want to say anything else about who you are or any final comments?
No, just thank you for just this opportunity, to have this conversation. It was great.
Okay, thanks,
All
Steve.
right. Take care.